So this is where the orangutans from the infant house are now being held, nice and safe in what was the food store. We have those cages around it anyway to stop monkeys or anything else coming in. So that was already kind of ready to go. It was a no-brainer. And then if I move around, you can see the generator house, staff canteen up the back there. And as you can see, keepers, everybody, villagers, all working on the restoration process already. Hopefully somebody is in this cage within a few days. In front of us now is what I call the infant house, everybody else calls the baby house. It's full of mud. Generally the structure looks like it's still okay, most of it. There is damage to one end. The metal cages inside all damaged. Luckily we got all the orangutans out of here alive and into the food store as a temporary basis, and now we're building some temporary cages for them to go into, better suited. So reconstruction has already started. We have a friend who's got some old cages that he wants to give us, and so we're just building a little foundation here, and we're going to put those on here, and these will accommodate all the very young infants that came from the baby house and are now currently being housed in the what was the food store. So this should be done, I reckon, in about 7 or 8 days we should be able to use this. This is essentially what's left of the veterinary clinic. You can see here and there still some equipment we've managed to salvage, we hope. Very expensive digital x-ray machine. It was in a pelican case and looks okay, but we haven't turned it on yet. We're waiting for a technician to come and help us do that, see if it still works. And then there's quite a few other things that the team has managed to get out of here. There's still a lot more under there left to get, and I think if you just look closely in front of me, you can see a soft toy tiger and a bear, maybe. Some of the just here standing was the side of the clinic, just this little white wall remaining. Behind there you can see the water tower, and then there's 2 blocks of 4 cages, so that's 8 cages, all intact and safe so far and usable when we need them, and 2 still standing treatment cages in that sort of mesh cage there to keep monkeys out. They're still usable, intact, and another one is lying on its side but also usable, and so we haven't lost everything. However much you feel like you have it sometimes. So up there in the background is one of the landslides. If you ask me, it's not the biggest one, but it's the one that's caused the most damage, because it directly hit 12 of the isolation cages and our veterinary clinic, which was the kind of the heart, the hub or the heart of the site. And all that remains of that is that tiny little bit of white wall in the middle there, and all of this debris that you see downstream of it. Going to pan up from what used to be the compost and waste disposal for processing facility to show you the scale of the landslide or hill removal. All that came down and just filled this valley, along with another 3 big landslides over in that direction and another massive one behind me. Looking around, a lot of the metalwork from the cages is reusable. The cages were designed, the more modern ones were designed as like panels bolted into a frame. So the team is going to come up and start dismantling those and storing them somewhere until we are able to use them again. What's in front of me is what's left of the large adult male facility. Used to house Fajrin and Loza, 2 big males that are now happily living on the islands at the orangutan haven. This is what's left. You can probably catch a glimpse of another major landslide behind them. The reason why they're so badly damaged. But I think we're incredibly fortunate that Losa and Fadrin were at the orangutan haven at the time, because if they weren't, they probably wouldn't be with us anymore. These cages just up there are what we call the biosafety cages. They were built in a hurry during COVID in case we had new animals arriving or any of the animals fell sick here. Fortunately, we didn't have any orangutans test positive, but we have them. They're still intact. There's 10 cages in there, all separated and isolated from each other, but the place is surrounded by mud, and the reason is because basically this entire hillside came down. Major landslides. I've counted sort of 4 of this scale just on our little site here. These are long-term holding cages. Again, they've survived intact and usable. A little bit of mud there in the middle slipped through between them, but none of the metal leg is damaged. And these cages held orangutans like Deknong, Krismon, Losa at one point, Lewis. So yeah, quite significant in the history of the centre. The centre's large socialisation cage block at the back of the site, unaffected by the landslide. This is where orangutans sort of first meet each other and start to learn how to be an orangutan again, and this is the last stop as well before they move on to the reintroduction centres in the forest at some point. But although they probably felt the ground shake a little bit on the night of the landslides, as far as they're concerned, life goes on pretty much as normal, and the same can be said for the keepers too.